It was supposed to be just another Monday morning. But when attorney Marcus Reid stepped out of his luxury car in a crisp navy suit, he had no idea the next 10 minutes would change his life, launch a national firestorm, and nearly cost him everything he'd worked for. Because in the eyes of one police officer, he was a suspect before he even spoke a word. Atlanta, Georgia, 8:04 a.m. Marcus Reid was running late for a court appearance. The kind of late that makes you loosen your tie at a red light and text your assistant to stall the judge. His silver Tesla Model South glided down Peachtree Street, its engine humming softly, music low, mind focused. 39 years old. Harvard Law. Partner at Langston & Fields. Clean record. Not a scratch on his reputation. As he approached a four-way intersection, Marcus noticed a police cruiser pull up alongside him. The light turned green. He accelerated gently. The cruiser didn't move. Then, flashing red and blue. Marcus frowned. "What?" he muttered, checking his speed. He wasn't speeding. No music blaring. Tags up to date. Nothing wrong. Still, he pulled over. Officer Grant Taylor, a white man in his early 40s with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses, approached Marcus's car with one hand on his holster. Marcus rolled down the window. "License and registration," Officer Taylor said. Marcus reached slowly into the glove compartment. "Was there a reason I was stopped?" Officer Taylor didn't answer. His eyes scanned the interior. Marcus handed over his documents. Officer Taylor squinted at the license, then looked back at Marcus. "This your car?" Marcus blinked. "Excuse me," I said, "is this your car?" Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Yes. Is there a problem?" Taylor tapped the license on his hand. "You don't look like the guy who owns a $90,000 Tesla." Boom. There it was. Marcus's heart thudded, not from guilt, but from fury, the kind he'd spent his life suppressing. 9 minutes later, Marcus was standing on the sidewalk, hands cuffed behind his back. The accusation. Grand theft auto. The proof. A mistaken VIN check, or so the officer claimed. Said the car was flagged as possibly stolen. Marcus repeatedly told him to check the documents again. To call the dealership. To verify the insurance policy that clearly bore Marcus Reid's name. But Officer Taylor was already calling for backup. A small crowd had gathered. Phones were out. Marcus's briefcase lay on the pavement, its contents spilled, legal briefs, case files, a courtroom notebook marked State vs. Denley. "Still," Taylor insisted, "I don't care what he says. Until I confirm ownership, this car is suspicious." One woman whispered to another, "That's Attorney Reid, he's been on the news. Big civil rights case." A younger man shook his head. "Doesn't matter if you're successful. You're still black." 10:07 a.m. Fulton County Courthouse. Marcus never showed up for court. His client, a young man facing wrongful arrest, waited in the gallery, confused. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in the back of a police cruiser, hands raw from the cuffs, staring at his reflection in the security partition. He'd fought cases of racial bias. Now, he was living one. 10:21 a.m. At the police station. A call came in from Detective Angela Price, a black woman and longtime friend of Marcus who had once interned under him during law school. She'd seen the footage on social media. Someone had tagged her. "That man is an officer of the court. Let him go. Now." By 10:45 a.m., Marcus was released. No charges. No apology. Just a muttered misunderstanding. But the cameras had already caught the moment. And Twitter. Already lit up with the hashtag #DrivingWhileBlack. That night, Marcus sat in his condo, watching the news. Prominent attorney mistakenly arrested in traffic stop, claims racial profiling. Fulton PD under fire for high-profile blunder. When justice isn't colorblind, the Marcus Reid incident. He stared at the screen, eyes burning. He wasn't going to let it go. Because this time, He was the plaintiff. And the city, about to be on trial. Marcus Reid wasn't just another black man humiliated on the side of the road. He was a litigator, a man who made his living exposing injustice. And after what happened, he knew exactly what to do next, because it wasn't just about him anymore. What started as one routine stop was about to blow the lid off years of corruption inside the Atlanta PD. 2 days after the arrest, press conference outside Langston and Fields Law. Microphones swarmed the steps. Reporters jostled for space. Marcus Reid stood behind the podium, hands steady, voice calm. What happened to me was not a mistake. It was a reflection of systemic racial bias embedded in our institutions. He looked directly at the cameras. I'm filing a civil lawsuit against Officer Grant Taylor and the Atlanta Police Department for unlawful arrest, racial profiling, emotional distress, and defamation of character. The crowd murmured. Some cheered. Some called it performative. But Marcus had one more thing to say. This is bigger than me. If this can happen to a man with degrees from Harvard and years in the courtroom, imagine what happens to those without a platform. Inside the APD, Internal Affairs Division, Detective Angela Price was already digging. She didn't need orders. She pulled Officer Taylor's file. It was thicker than it should have been. Multiple complaints. 5 stops of black drivers flagged as suspected theft in just 18 months. 2 settled lawsuits. But here was the kicker. A whistleblower tip filed last year by a former officer, citing Taylor's frequent use of pretextual stops in affluent black neighborhoods. The complaint had mysteriously disappeared from the formal records. Angela's stomach turned. She printed everything. Then she made a call. Marcus, meet me. I think you need to see this. That evening, Angela laid the documents out on his kitchen table. Marcus's eyes scanned the files. You're telling me this wasn't just bias, it was policy? Angela nodded. Or tolerated enough to function like one. She leaned in. There's more. The patrol car's dashcam footage? The audio's been tampered with. The department's trying to downplay this as a database error. Marcus clenched his jaw. They're already covering their tracks. Angela didn't smile. And that means you've got less time than you think. 2 weeks later, the legal bomb drops. Marcus and his legal team filed Reid versus City of Atlanta, a 78-page civil suit that named not only Officer Taylor, but Police Chief Harold McMillan for gross negligence and willful failure to discipline a pattern of racially motivated misconduct. The suit cited body cam footage inconsistencies, internal memos ignoring Taylor's complaint file, historical data showing disproportionate traffic stops of black professionals. And then, the city was served. The story went viral. CNN, The Root, Vice, even BBC News picked it up. The title everywhere. Black attorney sues after being accused of stealing his own car. Behind closed doors, City Hall panic. Chief McMillan was livid. Why the hell didn't anyone flag Taylor earlier? His deputy shrugged. It was all buried. That internal affairs girl, Price, she's stirring it back up. McMillan's voice dropped. Then shut her down. Quietly. Meanwhile, anonymous threats begin. Marcus began receiving strange phone calls at night. No voice. Just breathing. Then came the text. You should drop the case. For your own good. Angela got one too. Keep digging and you'll be buried next to it. Marcus wasn't surprised. He'd prosecuted men like this before. But now, they were inside the system he was fighting. Not everyone was behind Marcus. Comment sections flooded with trolls. Maybe he was acting suspicious. If you dress like a thug, you'll be treated like one. Race card again? Yawn. But the city also erupted in protests. College students marched outside the courthouse with signs that read, "Driving while black equals arrestable offense? We are all Marcus Reid." Donations poured in for Marcus's legal battle. A GoFundMe for legal advocacy hit $250,000 in a week. A private meeting, Marcus and Angela at her apartment. Angela poured 2 glasses of wine. Marcus didn't touch his. "They're scared," he said. Angela nodded. "You've got them cornered." Then she handed him another file. "You'll want to see this next." Inside it, a formal complaint filed by an APD officer, Lieutenant Carl Stokes, now retired, alleging that a secret risk profile system was used within the department. It assigned threat levels to drivers based on race, neighborhood, and car value. And guess who the architect of that system was? Grant Taylor. The city skyline glowed behind him. He recorded a video on his phone. "You stopped me because of what I looked like. But now, you've got my full attention. I will not stop until the truth is in the light. And if I have to burn your silence to the ground to get there, I will." He paused, then added, "See you in court." 3 weeks before trial, national spotlight intensifies. News outlets ran segments every night. Civil rights attorney versus police corruption. Hashtag driving while black. How many more? Lawyer detained in broad daylight. Now he's suing the city. Marcus was invited to The View, CNN Tonight, and even Good Morning America. His words were measured, but firm. "I'm not just suing for myself. I'm suing for every black man who's had to explain why he looks suspicious in a suit and tie." But the higher his profile rose, the more dangerous the game became. Then it hit. A breaking news alert. WSB-TV Atlanta, 6:12 p.m. Breaking. High-profile civil rights attorney Marcus Reid now under investigation for alleged financial misconduct and witness tampering. Angela dropped her phone. Marcus's inbox exploded with calls and texts. His assistant burst into his office. "Sir, Twitter's on fire. They're saying you bribed a witness in a prior case." Marcus stood still. "What witness?" she stammered. "A woman named, Jasmine Kirkland." The name hit him like a gut punch. Jasmine Kirkland was a key witness in a wrongful eviction case. Marcus had defended her brother, a disabled veteran kicked out of his apartment by a slumlord. Jasmine testified that the landlord offered her money to stay quiet. The case was public. The ruling had gone in Marcus's favor. But Jasmine? She'd vanished right after the trial. Current day, online tabloid, Expose ATL, releases documents. Screenshots. Fake wire transfers. Blurry photos of Marcus allegedly handing her an envelope. The headline: Civil rights attorney or corrupt insider. Exclusive evidence of misconduct. Within hours, hashtag Marcus Reid lied was trending. The trolls returned. Worse this time. He's no hero, just another shady lawyer. Knew it. Always acting like he's above the law. Fake victim, real criminal. Marcus stared at his screen, jaw clenched. Angela called. "They're trying to bury you, Marcus." Some partners wanted him to withdraw the lawsuit. "We believe in you, Marcus," one said, avoiding eye contact, "but the optics are messy. Maybe let someone else carry the case." Marcus laughed bitterly. "You think they'd stop at me? They'll come for the next one. And the next." He stood. This isn't just a case anymore. It's war. He walked out before they could vote. Later that night, Angela sends a file. Encrypted. Password protected. Inside, metadata reports, GPS logs, and camera angles that completely dismantled the photos from Expose ATL. Fake timestamps. Doctored images. AI voice cloning. Angela added a note. Source inside APD confirms. Smear campaign orchestrated by internal media leak team, used to discredit whistleblowers. You're not the first target. But you might be the first who can fight back. Marcus stared at the note. He wasn't just up against a rogue cop anymore. He was up against a machine. Days later, Jasmine Kirkland resurfaces. She appeared in a New York Times op-ed. I was offered money to lie about Marcus Reid. I refused. Now I'm afraid for my life. She didn't reveal who approached her, but she confirmed Marcus never bribed her. And the man in the photo? Not him. She disappeared again that same night. Marcus issued a public statement. They tried to assassinate my character because they couldn't beat my case. But the truth doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right moment to rise. In court filings, Marcus's team strikes back. They filed a motion for retaliation discovery, requesting full access to internal APD communications surrounding the smear attempt. Within days, subpoenas were sent. And that's when someone tried to break into Marcus's apartment. Security footage, 3:19 a.m., downtown Atlanta. A masked figure bypassed the front lobby, rode the elevator to Marcus's floor, and attempted to disable the camera outside his unit. The motion sensors triggered. He fled before police arrived. But Angela cross-referenced the footage with a private vehicle database. The getaway car was registered to an off-duty APD officer. Marcus stared at the photo, his reflection mirrored in the black hood of the car. Marcus at a mirror. His suit jacket is draped over a chair. His tie loosened. He stares at himself for a long time. They think they're breaking me. But I've already been broken. As a kid. As a student. As a black man. What they don't know is that broken men rebuild themselves into weapons. He straightens his collar. Looks straight into the mirror. See you in court. Opening day of trial. Fulton County Courthouse. Camera crews surrounded the steps as Marcus approached the courthouse in a sharp charcoal suit, flanked by his legal team. Angela walked beside him, holding a folder labeled, Exhibits, Internal Corruption. Crowds gathered. Protesters held signs. Some chanted his name. Others booed. This was no longer just a civil suit. It had become a cultural trial, a line drawn in the sand. Inside the courtroom, Judge Elaine Brooks, a veteran black female judge known for her no-nonsense reputation, took the bench. Let the record reflect, she said sternly. This court will not be a circus. Facts will speak louder than fear. Marcus's lead attorney, Shauna Green, stood before the jury. On March 4, 2025, attorney Marcus Reid, a Harvard graduate, a respected officer of the court, and a man with no criminal record, was treated like a suspect. Not because of anything he did, but because of how he looked. This case is about justice. But more importantly, it's about accountability. The defense's opening tried a different tone. Yes, mistakes were made. But Officer Taylor was responding to what he believed to be a legitimate flag on a stolen vehicle. This was not about race. It was about protocol. The jury was mixed: black, white, Asian, Latino. 7 women. 5 men. Tension hummed like electricity in the air. Officer Grant Taylor. His face was smug. His uniform crisp. He swore under oath, I acted on a vehicle match from dispatch. The driver's behavior raised my suspicions. He refused to comply. Shauna stepped forward. So you're saying Marcus Reid, an attorney carrying legal briefs, wearing a business suit, exiting a Tesla registered in his name, looked like a threat to you? Taylor hesitated. I didn't know who he was at the time. But you assumed he wasn't the owner? Taylor shifted in his seat. It's not about assumptions. It was about safety. She smiled slightly. Whose safety? The room fell silent. Key evidence, dashcam footage, metadata, and the AI leak. Angela took the stand next. Calm. Professional. She presented video forensic evidence proving the images leaked to Expose ATL were AI fabricated, created using voice samples and deep fake models linked to an untraceable IP address, traced back to an internal APD server. Gasps filled the courtroom. Angela ended with this. Someone inside the department tried to destroy Marcus Reid. And the question you must ask is, why? A surprise witness, Lieutenant Carl Stokes, Ret. This former officer risked everything. He stood tall, despite retirement threats and hush money offers. There's a system inside the department, a color-coded risk model. It rates people higher if they're black, male, and driving expensive cars. He handed over a copy of an internal risk chart, complete with redacted names and flagged vehicles. The judge allowed it into evidence. It confirmed what Marcus had long suspected. The system wasn't broken. It was designed this way. Marcus took the stand. He spoke with clarity and composure, detailing what happened during the stop, the humiliation, and the emotional toll. The room was quiet. Even the court stenographer looked shaken. Then came the cross-examination. The defense stood. "Mr. Reid, would you consider yourself a man of integrity?" Marcus replied, "I would." The defense nodded and opened a file. "Then explain this, a sworn affidavit signed yesterday by your former law partner, Daniel Keyes, claiming you fabricated evidence in a previous civil rights case. That you paid off a witness to strengthen your arguments." Marcus's face froze. Angela turned sharply. Whispers spread through the room like wildfire. Marcus and Daniel Keyes, years ago. They started their careers together. Best friends in law school. Opened to practice side by side before Langston and Fields recruited Marcus. Daniel had been left behind, simmering in resentment after a failed malpractice suit ruined his reputation. Marcus had defended him, funded him, tried to help. And now, this. Back in court. Marcus shook his head. "That's a lie." The defense attorney pushed forward. "You said earlier this case was about accountability. Shouldn't that apply to you too?" Judge Brooks banged the gavel. "Sidebar, now." The judge narrowed her eyes. "Unless you can prove that affidavit's real and not retaliation, you're walking a razor's edge." The defense smirked. "The damage is done." Shauna leaned into Marcus, whispering, "We need to flip this. If they're getting desperate enough to fake this too, we can use it." Marcus nodded, but his eyes were darker now. Hurt. Betrayed. Night before final arguments, Angela and Marcus on rooftop. Angela handed him a file. "It's a recording. Daniel was paid to lie. And guess who paid him?" Marcus stared at the name. "Chief Harold McMillan." Marcus whispered, "It goes that high?" Angela didn't blink. "Higher." Reporters camped on courthouse steps. Protesters returned with new signs. "Expose the chief. Justice for Marcus." The system isn't broken, it's rigged. Inside, the courtroom buzzed. Rumors swirled about leaked recordings, bribed affidavits, and a power structure on the verge of collapse. Judge Elaine Brooks entered the bench with fire in her eyes. "Let's finish this." Marcus's team called their final witness, IT specialist Renzo Alvarez, an expert in digital forensics. He presented audio evidence of a call secretly recorded by a whistleblower inside APD. Playback begins. McMillan's voice. "I don't care what it takes. Get Keyes to say Reid faked the Kirkland case. Everyone has a price. Find his." Unidentified voice. "Understood, Chief." And Reid. "McMillan. Bury him. His story ends before this goes to federal court." The courtroom gasped. McMillan's lawyers jumped to their feet, objecting. The judge overruled. The evidence was authenticated. The jury heard every word. Then, Marcus took the stand one last time. He stood calmly. "No notes. No script. For weeks, you've heard lies told about me. You've heard them question my character, attack my integrity, try to convince you that I'm the villain in my own story. But the truth? The truth is simple. I was stopped for being a black man in a nice car. I was humiliated. I was silenced. And when I refused to stay silent, they tried to destroy me. But here I am. Still standing. Still fighting. Because I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for everyone who's ever been seen as a suspect before they've been seen as a person." Shauna Green delivered it with power. If Marcus Reid had been white, he wouldn't be in this courtroom. He would have been in court that day, doing his job. The only thing he's guilty of is being black in America. The defense stumbled. No counter. No momentum. Their final appeal to departmental confusion landed flat. The damage was done. 2:37 p.m. The jury returned after just 4 hours. Judge Brooks asked the foreman, "On the claim of unlawful arrest and racial profiling, how do you find the defendant, Officer Grant Taylor?" "Guilty." "On the claim of malicious intent and falsification of internal records by the Atlanta Police Department?" "Guilty." "On the civil claim of emotional distress and defamation against Marcus Reid?" "Guilty." All parties liable. Cheers erupted. Tears flowed. Even the court officers looked relieved. Marcus was awarded $12.5 million in damages. More importantly, the judge ordered a federal investigation into APD's internal risk profiling system. Chief McMillan was placed on administrative leave the next morning. By the end of the week, he resigned. Officer Taylor was fired, and the DA opened a criminal probe into his previous traffic stops. The entire nation watched. But Marcus didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. Because the truth was, this never should have happened at all. 3 months later, Angela was promoted to Director of Internal Affairs Reform, heading a new civilian-led oversight committee. Marcus turned down TV deals, book offers, and interviews. Instead, he started a nonprofit, the Reid Foundation for Civil Accountability. Its mission: to train, defend, and fund people of color who face injustice, especially in traffic stops and wrongful arrests. In his first speech at the launch, "I used to believe that the law was enough to protect people like me. But I've learned something else. Sometimes the law is a weapon. But in the right hands, it can also be a shield."